Okay.
So we're right at 11:30. We'll probably give a few minutes to see. Looks like people are just now hopping on.
How many people signed up, Lori?
We have quite a few. I didn't see what the final count was. We've got people coming in
40.
right now. 40.
All right, we're live on Facebook.
Cool.
All right. Facebook famous. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like that we've got quite a few people hopping on right now. So wanted to welcome you all to our analyst meeting here for our luncheon for this month. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get together yet, but we are looking forward to having the opportunity to meet with everybody and do a small in-person luncheon next month. So pay attention to our IFMA website and our emails for that. We are getting our golf tournament off the ground and we're really excited about that. So that's going to be September 3rd. So I hope you all will join us. We're looking for additional players. We have our whole sponsors sold out, so we're really excited about that. It's going to be a great day at Arrowhead Golf Course, 8 a.m. shotgun start, and hope that you all can join us. A couple of things, just some ground rules. We're going to do this in presentation mode so that everybody who is on the call is automatically muted. If you have any questions for our panelists, I'll ask that you go ahead and put them in the Q&A or in the chat section, and we'll get to them when everybody is finished presenting. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. To tell you a little bit about our panelists today and what our focus is you know, we've all been going through quite a bit of things since all of this started, and everybody's experiences are similar and different at the same time. And so we thought it would be really nice to get together a group of people that help represent the kind of diversity of the facilities that we operate within our membership base. So we have a great group of people on this panel. We're waiting for 2 more as well that are going to pop in coming from another call. And so we'll flip to them when they come over. But at this point, what I'd like to do is kind of have everybody introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do and a little bit about their facility and how long they've been with IFMA. And then we'll start with our discussion. So Mark, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lori. And thank you all for the opportunity to be a part of this. My name is Mark Baker. I'm the Director of Facilities at the Denver Art Museum in downtown Denver. I've been doing that for a little over a year. A bit of my background, before coming here, I worked out at the Denver International Airport for 5 years as their Senior Vice President for infrastructure, airport infrastructure management. So I had maintenance underneath me, all the engineering departments, sustainability, environmental, noise. So all of the kind of operational elements, cradle to grave, care and upkeep of the airport fell under my purview. That was a fun and exciting job, but passion toward the arts drew me downtown Denver. And I just love being a part of this experience. Was here through the Monet exhibition and helped them with the finish up of the, or as we're finishing up now, the new Martin building, the old North Tower. Before I did all that, I spent 30 years in the Air Force. I retired as a crusty old colonel. The last 13 years of my Air Force experience were pretty much facilities and infrastructure. I ran airfield and airport operations both here in the US as well as all of the large airlift and air support operations for the entire Western Pacific. So I had operating locations in 11 different operating locations in 7 different countries, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, as well as the Philippines. So some really exciting and different locations to work in, and obviously experiences to work through. When we were assigned overseas, working with a combined international American staff always has its challenges with language barrier and kind of even operational perspective. So that was a fun and fascinating time. And I was privileged to have the opportunity when I hung up Air Force Blue for Corporate Gray to cross over out at Denver International Airport, and then find myself here at the Denver Art Museum. I like to joke with folks, the last assignment I had in the Air Force was actually running our national ballistic missile defense operations down in Colorado Springs. And so when folks, my staff comes to me with a crisis and they tell me, oh boss, you know, things are falling down all over the place, I can honestly say, hey guys, this is not rocket science. I've done rocket science, and I can tell you we're going to be okay. So that's a little bit about me. With the Denver Art Museum, obviously I've had the privilege of guiding that through this COVID experience, where we opened the doors at the start of the summer to the public through controlled kind of tickets and operation. And I can talk more about that as we go through on particular areas of interest. So that's a little bit about me in the museum.
Appreciate that, Mark. And then Dorene, I will go to you next for introductions.
I am Dorene Moreno. I can't follow his presentation.
Oh,
but,
sure you can.
my name's Dorene, and I work with the Raymond James Data Center here in Denver. And I've been an IFMA member for 7 years now. Came with experience from Quest Communications, had 20 years with Quest. Been managing buildings for approximately about 20 years now. So kind of this data center's 39,000 square feet, smaller than the properties I'm used to managing. So right now it's just a critical infrastructure for the Raymond James team here.
Thanks, Dorene. And then next I'll move to you, Steven.
Hello, everybody. So Steven Stierstorfer, I've been with IFMA for about 7 years now. I started in Phoenix, then moved here to Colorado in 2015, 5 years ago. That's crazy. Mostly my first half of my career was really managing call centers. I worked for T-Tech or Teletech, Direct Alliance Ravana. They've gone through a few name changes, worked there, did all the US call centers. Came over here to Aero about 2.5 years ago now. I have about 110 locations across Canada, US, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. And they range from small 20 seats sales offices all the way to 500,000 square foot distribution centers throughout that portfolio. So it's interesting. I do have a small data center. I work here in Inglewood out of our corporate center. We've got a not Doreen size, more like 10,000 square feet. So partial, but it is our main data center here in Colorado. So I'm part of that along with the office and warehouse.
Great, thank you, Steve. Next I'm going to move to David. I see you on.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Hirsch. I'm with Pulte Group. I'm one of the old guys in the group. I've been with IFMA for about 30 years or so. I started in Silicon Valley, moved to Denver in the early 90s, and have been with the group since then. I'm currently with Pulte Group for about the last 12 years. For those who don't know, Pulte is a national home builder. We're one of the top 3 with D.R. Horton and Lennar. We're about a $10 billion organization that builds and sells homes in about 23 states around the country. And here in my responsibility is for the financial services division of the company, which is mortgage, title, and insurance services. And we have a centralized mortgage processing plant in Inglewood, 100,000 square feet, 750 seat facility.
Great, thanks, David. And then Gloria.
Hi, everyone. Gloria Clark. I've been a member with IFMA since 2005. So I have been very involved and engaged with IFMA from the get-go, joining as a member, expanding on my career in the facility management arena. So being in facility management for the past 15 years or so, I've had an opportunity to work in commercial facility management, retail commercial facility management, and the commercial has run the span from pharmaceuticals to oil and gas to cybersecurity. And currently I am a commercial property manager at Residential Niche. So this was kind of a shift in my career path, but I was directly impacted by COVID-19 from my previous role. So this has been a really interesting experience for me. I bring to the table my facility management background, but I'm also learning a lot with commercial property management in terms of leases and really getting down to the fine details of working with tenants and legalese and that type of thing. So it's been a really interesting ride so far. So I'm happy to be where I'm at and glad to be part of this panel today. Very
Thanks,
excited.
Gloria. And then last but not least, so let's go over to Brett.
Hey everybody, my name is Brett Siebel. Sorry I'm a little late. I was on the phone call with the fire department talking about the NEC code, so TBD on that. But basically I've been at IFMA for about, I'd say 8 years. I've been with the Denver Broncos for 15 years. I started out in operations, moved my way up to project management. Now I oversee the engineering team in the building. So we oversee all the upkeep, all the events, the stadium, projects and all that kind of stuff. And so once it's my turn, I'll just kind of talk about everything we've done to kind of prepare for COVID and what we're doing.
Great, thanks, Brett. All right, with that, I'm going to start back with Mark. And Mark, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys have experienced through the pandemic so far and what has been some of your successes over the last few months?
Yeah, so one great benefit, I think, of this unfortunate circumstance is it really has forced us to expand our network and really our outreach to other organizations and individuals to learn from them. We've been successful at introducing some things here to the museum, but it's through those conversations and connections, not only through IFMA, but through the American Museum Association and things like that, that we have really benefited as we've moved through this pandemic and toward a reopen of the museum here in downtown Denver. Our biggest challenge was how do you reestablish kind of community confidence in coming into a facility like an art museum where people will tend to view that as a very closed and confined environment that could place them at risk or is not conducive to kind of safe social distancing and those type of things. So we've worked hard to overcome that. We really have had to fight back from our success with Monet. The Monet exhibition we did through the holidays in this past year took our daily attendance from about 800, between 700 and 800 visitors a day to over 5,000 visitors a day, reaching a peak through the exhibition of almost 120 people through that exhibition every 10 minutes. So we were just flooded with folks down here from all over the country, all over the world. And I think if people had come and seen and experienced that, there was understandably some trepidation in stepping back through the doors into that experience in light of the environment we find ourselves in. So what we did is we've introduced some new and interesting technologies like nanoseptic touchpads that we've placed on our doors, door handles, our emergency exits, as well as the buttons on our elevators. These are touchpads that enzymatically clean themselves. They're self-cleaning and they last for about 90 days. Some we've turned a little bit quicker than that, simply because of the high touch point and traffic use. We have introduced ticket-controlled entry into the museum so that we're in compliance with both city and state requirements on the number of people we can have in any given space at any given time. And that's driven by the size of our galleries and exhibition areas. But the other thing we've done is we put in all the bathrooms the sanitary Purell hand sanitizer. We have the sprayers that we use throughout the museum. Every morning before it opens, every night, we do a deep clean with our enzymatic sprayers or ionizing sprayers through the building. We have a great partner in Waxy and supporting our efforts out here. Not to throw a plug in, but we have great partners across the board that really on the tier 1 level, from the zoo to the science and nature, botanic gardens, those are kind of my sister organizations for Denver as far as the arts and culture. And we've exchanged ideas on how to control entry. We do distance marking out on our plaza so that when you enter the museum, you are kind of into the flow and the experience of the museum, not caught up down on our main floor waiting to handle tickets or get inside. And then we've also adjusted the way we do our gift shop and galleries themselves by expanding and providing recommended pathways. And of course, everyone has to wear a mask while they're in the museum, but so far it's been very successful. We are almost routinely selling out every day. We're averaging about 650 in our reduced numbers, and we're slowly turning that up over the last week to about 780. And we're hoping that we can demonstrate safe space distancing and modulation with a single entry, single exit with that increased number as we head toward our next premium event, which will be Mexican modernism at the end of the year. And right now we have on display both Norman Rockwell and Homer and Remington. So I had to put in the plug, if you haven't been down here to see those shows, to get down and see them before they go, because they really are incredible and they speak to the experience all of us are going through right now and the hardships that our country has experienced before through art and expression and creative presentation. So I know a lot of folks are familiar with Norman Rockwell, and to see his work up close and personal is just incredible, and that we've found ways to present it in this environment has been a blessing. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Mark. Would you mind sharing a little bit about how you all came together to talk about your variances and how you went through that kind of combined effort a little bit, just to share with everybody what you guys
Yeah, that's a great question, Lori, and was really a success, I think, for us. As the city began to examine how it was going to reopen and what facilities it would allow to reopen, the Tier 1 culturals kind of decided that they would collectively petition the city and the state for variances across our platforms, as opposed to individually attempting to seek a variance unique to the art museum or to the zoo or the botanic gardens or science and nature. It was more beneficial for us to come together and offer up a combination of ideas and an expression of approach to the city managers and ultimately to the state to get them to approve us kind of a ticket managed entry to maximize the availability of our unique spaces within our facilities, where we could demonstrate that because of the way people, historically we know people flow through the facilities, we were able to increase the numbers than at initial blush the city was kind of considering for our institutions. And I think that combined effort, not only did it allow cross communication and really partner building between the tier ones, but we learned from one another. We provided, I think, a much stronger argument when we went forward to the city, and I'm convinced we were able to get it through the bureaucratic process, oh, I apologize, in a much quicker fashion by doing it together rather than each of us alone attempting to fight that bureaucratic battle.
Great, thank you, Mark. We appreciate that, you sharing that with us. David, I'm gonna move on to you. So if you could tell us a little bit about your space and how the population has changed with Pulte over the last couple of months, and talk a little bit about the challenges that have presented itself. I'll pass it to you.
Okay, great, thanks. Our biggest challenge has been just the unknowing what the future is going to bring. At first, like I said, we have a 750 person facility. When the shutdown occurred in March, we went on a procurement binge to buy everybody equipment to work from home, got everybody out of here. And our construction sites stayed open, but all the sales centers, design centers closed around the country, and people just stopped buying houses. We promised our employees we'd take a very measured approach and not make any rash decisions, but we were planning for doomsday, quite frankly. And in early May, we had a reduction in force that was about 10% of the team here. And really scattered as far as figuring out what the future was going to bring. Come June, when the bans were kind of lifted and people kind of explored out, all of a sudden there was massive demand for housing. People across the country were shopping, trying to move to the suburbs. We experienced the most favorable interest rates in probably history, and demand just shot up like crazy. And business just turned 180 degrees. We're back to pre-COVID sales numbers, pre-COVID stock price. Most of the people that positions we eliminated, we've hired back. We have open recs for additional employees to handle the capacity. I'll put in a shameful plug if anyone wants to be a mortgage consultant or processor, have them give me a call. We're hiring. But everybody's remote now, and we have this large office, and everybody's productive. And so it's really opened up all kinds of opportunities to where we thought in the past that we had to be this centralized model. In order to manage people, we're discovering that we're just as productive, if not more productive, around the country and remotely. So that's been the biggest shift, is reevaluating the business and what our needs are beyond facilities, but just looking at the entire model.
Thanks. What about some of the products and modifications that you guys have been looking at through the building and what your space planning might look about. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we did the same. What I thought was most important is what can we control? What we can't control is somebody, spreading the disease, but what can we control to try and minimize that? So first of all, we lock people out, try not to bring the devil into the church. So if you don't need to be here, don't come in. If you're not feeling well, don't show up. We have an authorized list. You need a senior vice president approval to be an essential employee. There's only about 40 of us in the building right now, so everybody has a lot of space. But beyond the Pharrell and the signage, we're doing temperature checks. We're rolling out a visitor management system that's going to be modified so that we're doing a health screening that we can have for electronic purposes for any contact tracing incidents that we might need to go through. We've opened up every door possible so that people don't have to open doors. We put operators on all the exterior doors with motion wave plates. Our stairwells we've modified with magnetic hold opens connected to the fire alarm systems. We've in our restrooms, they were a little dated, so we took this opportunity to upgrade everything to touchless, from toilets, urinals, paper towels, dispensers, faucets, soap. We put little tissue dispensers next to bathroom doors and elevators so that people can just touch with a tissue and throw it away. We modified our water faucets with bottle filling retrofits. And then with the HVAC system, we changed out the filters in the RTUs to MERV 13 filters for the highest filtration that our system can fit. And we modified the economizer settings so that we're taking in currently about 25% minimum fresh air intake. And we're continuing to look at that and try to maximize as much air circulation as possible.
Great, thank you for sharing that, David. Steve, I'm gonna move over to you next. With over 110 facilities that you manage across Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, can you discuss kind of some of the challenges that COVID-19 presented with how you developed the standards for your facilities and kind of address the guidelines and how you managed employees for working in the buildings?
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
The big thing was managing sites in all kinds of countries is really making sure our standards met country, state, local, health company, health departments. I had to look at all of it, and I worked with our legal team to make sure we were complying at a very high level at the highest standards. So we put that standard together and then submitted that to all of the sites to say, okay, this is the minimum required you had. Now, most of the standards, we already had more of a scope of work. Our janitorial scope of work covered most of your disinfecting and cleaning. Usually it's a 1 or 2 lines within your scope of work. So we just separated out the high touch disinfecting as a larger standard. It's now a full sheet of paper, multiple items. You break out every possible common touch point there could be within both an office facility and also a warehouse facility, because I had to look at it from both sides to create the larger standard. Warehouses have forklifts, have facility cages, janitorial cages, different things. Office complexes, have your lobbies, your reception areas, your kitchens, your stairwells, everything like that. So creating the larger standard that worked out. So we just roll it out, make sure we meet both, like I said, both government CDC, state, health company, health departments, make sure we meet all that. And then kind of rolled that out. I rolled that out probably early February when we first started hearing about all this, January, February. I pretty much do preventive maintenance more than reactionary. So I'm always trying to stay ahead of what could happen. So we got that out. We got that out to all our sites. Most of our sites, are essential businesses. Most of my distribution centers are essential businesses. So we have to make sure we never close. We keep the business rolling.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you guys are forward thinking your occupancy planning, and maybe provide some tips for any of our facility managers or other managers out there that are kind of going through that process right now with people in and out of the buildings?
Yeah, so right now most sites are 50-50. It kind of depends on the state guidelines right now as far as how many people we're seeing in the facilities. But we are looking at a 3 to 5 year plan. We don't think this is going away anytime soon. We think it's going to change how office complexes operate in the future. So what does that mean for a real estate portfolio? Are we going to continue to have 110 locations? We're going to have more? We're going to have less? Social distancing. We're working with our furniture vendors. Is our current furniture situation optimal for social distancing, or do I need to start capitalizing furniture replacements at the sites in order to keep that? And again, depends on state and CDC regulations as to where you are, because everyone's different. So we're kind of looking at the 3 to 5 year plan on what it's going to do. I've come up with 3 options. One is, everybody back in the building. Do you mandate mask wearing? Continue the high touch disinfecting. Most of my bigger sites, I have day porters on site. At the larger facilities, so usually it's 50 to 75 people or more. I've got day porters inside. Because there's less people, I've been able to repurpose them. They're obviously not cleaning bathrooms as often. They're not being used as often. So they're doing more of wipe downs. They're wiping every touch point down every hour. Some of the smaller sites, it's daily. We're doing full site cleans on the weekends at the larger sites to include all tables and chairs and everything possible within. I work with a lot of national companies where we can create the standard and roll it out all over. All of my sites are doing the exact same thing, which helps. We have a no visitor policy right now in place, so we don't get outside visitors in the building. It is strictly employees only that are allowed on our sites, which does help. Depending on the state, we have screening processes in place. Either health screening through our own app. We obviously working for a large electronics and IoT company, we can create our own stuff. So a lot of our states are using our own app to do health screenings before you enter the building. Some of the states, we have third-party company that is outside right now, and they're doing screenings for us. So we can track and monitor and ensure anybody that does enter the facility has passed some kind of screening technology. And then, obviously within the building, I've got arrows and signage and one way you can only, even stairwells, one stairwell is up, one is down. Inside the main lobby, we have a railing in between, luckily, so I can create up and down there. Limiting people in elevators, limiting people in all your common areas. Again, following all of everything the state and CDC has been telling us that we have to do. We're following. Again, with signage, obviously I believe big on a lot of national vendors that I use. I created a digital storefront online, so all my smaller sites where I don't have FM presence, they can just go in and order the signage they need. I've limited the signage to about 20 different signs. There's hundreds out there. There's multiple versions of what could be, but I standardize it to make it simple. One type of mask wearing, one type of social distance sign. You got to limit the options to really create the standard out there, which is what we've done here so far. And it's worked real well. Most of our sites have reopened. Most of them never closed. A lot of our essential businesses never closed. So I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between different locations of what we can and can't do, and creating those standards really help keep things rolling and keep the sites moving at a good pace.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Steve. Okay, Dorene, you're up next. Can you tell us a little bit about your facility and what it's like to keep up with the critical infrastructure for your company, and how you're utilizing your team to and scheduling to meet the needs of the building and keep everybody healthy? Oh, you're on mute, Dorene. Restart.
Sure. Okay. So with the critical infrastructure, we have not had any type of shutdowns or layoffs because it's a 25 employee building. Most of them are IT employees, so they're normally working from home. So when everybody had to go home, they were already pretty much set up at home to work. And the employees that are on site now are just the engineers that are managing the building, and myself. We have one director here that comes in each day. And so it's pretty much business as usual. All of the contractors are coming in doing their PMs as normal. All that we ask is that they wear a mask when on site. And as far as doing the touch point cleaning, we're utilizing our staff that are here because nobody's really in the building. We're utilizing them to do the touch point cleaning once a day, and then we have janitors coming in at night and doing also the night cleaning with nobody being here, so that again we redirected them just to do touch point cleaning and keeping track of like more of the cleaning than doing the normal cleaning that they normally did when there was more people on site. As far as we added signage to the restrooms to say 6 feet distancing, and then we added some signage around the break room so people, if they are on site, that they have the 6 feet distancing. If somebody's using the sink or whatever, they need to stand back and wait their turn. We added some wipes around the areas for people to wipe up after their stuff when they're using the microwaves or using the coffee machines, refrigerators. We're asking that people wipe after their use, so then nobody's behind you touching anything that you use. As far as everything's pretty much going as usual. We didn't have any type of budget cuts or anything that we had to redirect because with it being a critical facility, we really need to keep the building going as is. So we didn't have to cut back on anything. Pretty much that's it for us. It's business as usual.
Glad to hear that, Dorene. Can you tell us a little bit about how the communication has been with your corporate office being located in another state and hotspot, and kind of how that's worked back and forth for you guys, planning everybody coming back?
Yeah, so our corporate office is in Florida. We all know that Florida is one of the hot spots. So right now, we're not even looking at employees coming back at this time. They're pretty much just on hold of sending people back. They did allow 20% to come back. Here at the data center, nobody came back. They're pretty much just staying at home. I think in the home office, I've heard that they do have 20% that are going in, but again, they had to sign saying that they agreed that they were well going into the building. There's signage saying that you're attesting that everything that you're agreeing that you're well before you even enter the building. So if you are coming back, you do have to sign an attestant saying that you are well and that you're going to come into the building as a well employee. We did have one COVID case here at the data center, and it was one of our security. So I worked with our risk management group to have the building cleaned that night, and had already took measures of getting a contract in place before we even had the case come up. So when it did come up, we were already set to get the building cleaned, and we didn't have to stop anything but for the day, sending employees home for the day, and then they were able to come back the next day because we had everything in place to get it cleaned that night. So that worked out perfect for us.
Great, thank you. Okay, Gloria, you've had quite an interesting story through all of this so far. Can you tell us a little bit about your last company and how things changed as you were affected by COVID-19, and tell us a little bit about that experience?
Sure. When the COVID-19 pandemic started hitting the corporate facility, my role was part of being a corporate facility manager and also facility manager and property manager for the outlying Shane Company high-end jewelry stores. So it's kind of a combination. We were not allowed to go into the office, but at the same time, we were working with state mandates on getting the stores open and functioning. But there was a lot of back and forth according to the state's regulations. I believe that Steve alluded to that earlier. So a lot of it was stop and start because this is not an essential business. And as this process kept going through, my company did have a fairly substantial layoff. And so in the middle of all that, I had to refocus and get moving in a different direction. So yeah, it was definitely a state of panic for me at first, but as I went through the whole process and was working with some of my friends and business colleagues, especially through LinkedIn, I got to give a big shout out to LinkedIn. What I discovered is that even though businesses were reshifting and refocusing, a lot of jobs were still open. They just probably were put on hold. And now, eventually as the process went on, the jobs were reposted. I had good success in interviewing at several locations. I didn't do a whole lot of Zoom meetings. I'm not really that practiced at it. So thanks to my daughter, she kind of got the setup all going for me. And currently, I'm in a situation where I'm on site every day. So my current situation is very much on site, working with people. We have a lot of small business owners that are on site. So whereas a lot of people are being told to stay home, I imagine, we're kind of the opposite. So most people are back in their offices to a small degree, and it's definitely increasing. So we take the proper, precautionary measures in terms of mask mandates and social distancing, that sort of thing, but very much a normal kind of a daily business life for myself. And that was also an interesting kind of experience as well, because as everybody knows, everyone's got a different comfort level in working in different environments. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do believe that there are a lot of jobs available, a lot of postings, and just like I said, I really did see that come to fruition during the months of April, May, and June. Particularly after Memorial Day, I think there was a lot more businesses opening up. Yeah, I definitely felt that was a reality, and I think it is still a reality. On the flip side, what does that look like come the holiday season? I think it all depends on the kind of business you're in. Retail, definitely struggling. I don't know how they're really going to bounce back. Large commercial facilities, again, probably taking a second look, as Steve was talking about earlier. The smaller business owners kind of in a different space. So it all depends, I believe, in what your field is or your company is, and again, the comfort level of people coming back. Like I said, I don't do many Zoom calls now, thank God. But most of my interaction is face to face.
We like the face-to-face calls. Do you have any any advice that you would give to anybody, just from a interviewing standpoint or anything as they are going through this, knowing that there could be additional job changes that happen in the next couple of months or so?
Yeah, I would say that during this whole COVID process, I was very laser focused in getting a job. So there was mass chaos happening around me, but really kind of have to put the blocks up and the blinders on and continue focusing on your job hunt as you would normally do this, with the expectation of technology coming into play, whether it's a Zoom call interview. I had a fail at first where no one's phone was working, and it was we all had to laugh about it. And then you've got so many different platforms. You've got Cisco WebEx, and you've got Zoom, and you've got Google Meet. So I would suggest that people get up on that technology a little bit, maybe ask your kids, maybe ask somebody else to help you get up on technology if you're not quite familiar with it. But with that expectation that most companies would set that expectation that the first call is going to be in that kind of environment, and to get comfortable with it. And so my expectation was pretty much around that. And the good resources are networking groups. I joined a nationwide networking group that was virtual, and they had live chat rooms. So the HR coaches would assist people from all over the country. And actually there were some people in Europe that were on that particular website. So it's very useful to reach out to companies that are in the business right now of helping people come through a pandemic and helping them with their job search. I found it very beneficial.
Great, thanks, Gloria. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. All right, last but not least, we're going to move over to you, Brett. You've got a very unique facility, and you've had your own challenges that have presented itself for your team. Can you tell us a little bit about your team, how your team worked through some of this and some of the positive things that you guys were able to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. We found quite a few positives in this whole kind of crazy world we're going through. The first thing, just the kind of timeline of how we reacted to it, then became proactive to what's going on. But the first thing was technology. Once we kind of knew what was hitting, our IT team was really good about scrambling and getting our staff the right technology so they could work from home. So I have 4 supervisors that each oversee trades, and they oversee techs. And so the techs did, all they had were mobile phones. So how can we get those guys iPads, laptops, so they can do somewhat work from home? So that was the first thing. Then IT implemented right away. It was these thermal imaging temperature scans. So as you know, construction didn't shut down. So when we were coming to the building, we would get a text message at 4 in the morning with a little questionnaire to fill out, like you've probably all seen, have you left the country in the last 48 hours or blah, blah, blah. So you check all that, and then it pumps you out a QR code. You go scan your temperature, check that, you're in the building, you get wristband. So that's the protocol for all of us and contractors that are in the building, pretty much everybody in the building. So that was the first one. It's just the IT team, kudos to them, getting ahead on technology, just allow everybody to kind of get back and actually work from home. The second piece that we did is the supervisors, myself, could stay pretty busy at home and print pretty hard, but we really try to figure out, hey, what can we do with some of the trades that aren't going in? And so we developed, like, let's get them training, instead of, flying to Toronto like they're planning on doing, let's do more online training. So I know a handful of them signed up to get their FMP, and they started working on that. I signed them all for masterclass. You've probably seen the commercials. There's wonderful things on there, from art of negotiation to business strategy. They got a lot out of that, and I think they took some of the cooking classes too. I appreciate that as well. But there's some really affordable online training that they had. I know the HVAC guys took some extra ASHRAE training. The electricians, I think one of them worked on getting his master's just renewed. So we really hit training hard right away, just to kind of get something going for the team. The second thing we did was we kept communication up. So we kept our Monday meetings. We had Microsoft Teams, so everybody's joined the Monday morning meeting, kind of talked about the week, and everybody knew it changed so much in the beginning. So everything we knew, we just kind of updated them on that. To close out the week, we had happy hours. So we'd have a Thursday evening happy hour. So everybody would come on, and to be honest, One is just to help them morale the team, to see how your team's doing, because they're going through some crazy stuff as well. And then while they're going through that, we'd really come up with some really cool ideas, like what can we do to make the building safe for staff and for when things come back? So those started the ideas on what we should do. And then, like, as you know, construction didn't miss a beat. So some of my team was going in for construction. Anything related to construction, we had contractors come in, going through the system. So one piece of silver lining is we're able to look at our budget 2021 with our district budget is a different type of revenue stream that we get, and say, okay, what should we move now that maybe next year, if we're having concerts and going crazy to make up lost revenue, what can we do now? So we did some parking lot overlays that we're doing in 2021. Let's hit those out while there's no people in the building. We did club renovations in all the bathrooms. We did some office renovations. We actually saved some money by some air handler replacements because we didn't have to get temporary AC because there's no staff in the building. So we just really tried to think through what can we do now that we're slated for 2021. So I think since code hits, actually right now, we hit about 120 projects that we have checked off the list. So we're kind of a leg up next year in a way. So construction was big. A couple other things is just the vetting ideas. One thing we worked with was UC Health has an epidemiologist on staff. They're a partner of ours. So when we come up with these crazy ideas from UV lights to ionization to all sorts of different kind of cleaning products out there, what really works? So we try to vet it the best we could, send it over to the epidemiologist, and they would say, hey, this is good, not so much on this. So that was a huge help to just kind of get that check mark from them to start implementing things. And kind of operationally, I'm more on the engineering side, but what the ops team has done is really, we vetted Clorox 360. That seems like a good product that we're using to clean the building. Oxifer wipes, I think there's different kill times on that, the 1 minute, 3 minute, and maybe 5 minute. But I know hydrogen peroxide is one of the main active ingredients in killing what we're dealing with right now. So the ops team did a really good job, and we're planning on, if there's fans in the building, if there's 20,000, if there's X amount, here's what we're going to do. Here's what type of wipes to use in different scenarios for effective cleanliness. So kudos to the ops team on that. Ton of stuff. From the UV lighting, they brought in moonbeams. I'm sure some people are familiar with that. It's a portable moonbeam that blasts room with UV light to kill everything. Kind of shifting gears to the infrastructure, and what we came up with on the engineering side is we really realized over vetting everything that it's an airborne illness and the fight's in the air. So let's see what we can do to clean the air. And that's when we really dug into needlepoint ionization. There's ionization that uses ozone, things like that. So we really want to keep in mind, financially responsible, what should we do that isn't just for 1 year? You know, if there's a vaccine or it goes away, what can we get the most bang for a buck? So we thought needlepoint ionization, there's a lot of good things with it. It cleans your coils in your HVAC equipment. You can reduce the amount of outside air coming in, because if you have ions going inside your building, you're actually pulling in, dirtier air. So we've done a lot with that. So we've installed 27 ionization systems on our AHUs, and with that, we put in the MERV 13s. And then we actually worked with a company in Dallas to design a standalone unit for our restroom. So we are hoping for, I want to say it was 1,000 parts per million of the ions, and we're getting 2,400 parts per million in the restroom. So that technology's kind of exceeded. We'll be able to test that too. So that was one thing we sent to the epidemiologist. And then one other way to kind of fight it is you don't touch things. So in our restrooms, we wanted to go touchless on everything. So we went with touchless faucets with Sloan. We partnered with Sloan to put touchless faucets in the entire building. We pulled out all the sinks, and we used antimicrobial glazed sinks from Sloan. And for the toilets, what we did in the urinals is same thing, is we changed all the flush valves out to touchless. And with that, we implemented some Bluetooth technology with it, so we can have smart bathrooms in the future to track make sure our mixing valves aren't scalding people. We can get alerts if there's running toilets, things like that we can be more efficient on as well. And then another thing we worked on was the escalators. If you're asking people to get on an escalator and to be safe and have 3 points of connection, are they going to want to touch that nasty black handrail? So we talked about different types of methods. We put like a cleaning system on there, and so we came up with the UV light system and helped Comet develop that to put in our escalators. And with our epidemiologist's help, we knew that UVC light would kill at a certain intensity of light with a certain duration. So we matched that. They built the specs for us, and that was my call earlier, is trying to get the fire department to give us our final blessings so we can get those on. So we've done a lot of stuff on the infrastructure to kind of get the building up and running. And then in the elevators themselves, there's also a tow-to-go system. So we've been vetting that. So basically, instead of touching buttons or putting any kind of safe precautions over the buttons, just use your toe. So it's called tow-to-go to kick it. We don't want anybody, Matt Prater in a 63-yarder in the elevators. We're calling it tow-to-go, not kick buttons. So a lot of stuff we've done just to try to get ahead of the curve and to make it safe for employees when they get back.
Thanks for sharing all that, Brett. You guys have done a fantastic job so far. Can you tell us a little bit about how your team kind of came together to develop these different task forces to kind of tackle some of the challenges that you guys were going to be presented with and continued on as you talk about bringing fans into the building and everything?
For sure. We had a couple different task forces. So the main task force that worked with the NFL, that was spearheaded by Brittany Bolin, our GM, our assistant GM, and HR. And they would work with the league, and the league would send out huge packets, 50-page plus of here's what we expect to do, here's what we're thinking, and they would vet it. So then reach out to us, and they'd say, okay, get us the air exchanges in the locker room. Here's what it's required. So we get the data back to them. So they kind of ping every department. And that was like the big one, the big collection of data that they're working with the NFL to make sure we're within those guidelines, which are a lot stricter than the state's guidelines. So that was one thing. There was an operations one as well, and that team worked with Aramark on development of cleaning protocols, to help the vet. You probably had seen a lot of snake oil salesmen out there trying to sell all sorts of stuff during this time, but with Aramark and our epidemiologists, they really vetted out the best way to clean operationally and the right chemicals and timing on what to use. And then the other team was my team on, what can we do to the infrastructure of the stadium to make it safe? Not only to make it safe, but something smart that we can use down the road, and it not a waste of money, but you'll get a good long-term investment for it as well.
Great, thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody on this panel here sharing your experiences and the things that you guys have been doing since we started this whole thing a couple of months ago, which feels like a really long time ago and also so short. So I'm going to open it up for additional questions for anybody that is listening, and then I'm going to ask a couple of round robin questions for you all as well. So the first one I have for you is, what's the best piece of advice that you could pass on to anyone that's listening on this call? And I'm going to start with Dorene.
I think having a plan in place so when you do get that COVID case, that you're all set up for getting it cleaned and getting the facility back in operation. Having everything ready for a cleaning. I mean, it's the best thing to do is to have everything in place and ready to go instead of trying to scramble to find out who's going to clean your facility, how long it's going to take. I think having a plan will be the best way to go at this point.
Great, thank you. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the plan. You should have already had the plan, hopefully a couple months ago you have the plan in place, because it's not a matter of if you're going to get a case on your site, it's when. We're going to get it. We're all going to get it. It's going to happen. So are you ready for it, and what are you going to do when it does happen? So you got to be able to turn it quickly, turn the building around quickly, and get people right back inside and working or visiting or whatever we're doing. It's our responsibility not to let something get shut down and stay shut down for a long time.
Great point. What about you, Gloria?
I think it's important for you to set a good example. So I would say from my personal experience, particularly where I'm at now, working with individuals, small business owners, and people that are coming and going from the facility, they look to us as a property management group to lead by example and provide information just to provide some more reassurance and confidence that the situation is under control as much as possible, and their environment is safe and good for them to be working in. So I think that is really important to portray good leadership, and like I said, set a good example for the people that are your internal customers or external customers.
Thank you. And Brett, what do you think?
I think during this time is really take care of your team. There's a lot of stuff going on with their kids going back to school and how that looks. Just really talk to your team, make sure they're your number one priority, and they'll take care of you. But take care of your team.
Okay. How about you, Mark?
I would say one of the things, lessons learned is the importance of network. Really, you don't have to solve these problems on your own. I think it's important to continue to maintain some kind of networking and connections with, your facility management community. IFMA provides a great forum through which to do that. Exchanges like this are wonderful. It really is, and it's difficult to do because we're all isolated and alone, and you get burned out on these Zoom meetings. But it's so important to kind of keep that active and to reach out to other folks for ideas and insight and inspiration. That we're all going to get through this together, and it's just a matter of sharing those ideas. Sometimes it's just an offhand comment that we found sparks something that you go, oh, tell me a little bit more about that. And suddenly we're, implementing it here at the museum. So I have really found that to be a great takeaway, is that don't allow the stay at home or the stay away orders to keep you away from your connections and from the people that really kind of feed your gray matter in times like this to keep generating ideas and different avenues of approach.
That's a great point, Mark. Okay, it doesn't look like we have very many questions coming through over our chat, so I'm going to end on one final question, and that is going to ask that each of you tell me something positive that's come out of this and what you'll take away. So I will start. Gloria, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, I got to say that my tennis game has improved.
Yes.
So, I have been playing a lot of tennis, and I've just found that I've been a lot more active outside. So I make an effort to be outside as much as I can and just improve on my own personal health. And I guess fortunate or unfortunate, it's been a very warm summer to the point of being hot, but it still afforded people the opportunity to social distance safely in a lot of outdoor activities. So I've got to say, from a personal standpoint, that's worked well. And also just having family get-togethers over the computer, Zoom, Google, whatever that is, has helped us keep connected. And I find that, you can provide a big source of support and, as Mark was saying, inspiration within your own family members. The isolation is so difficult. So with the people that you are closest to, just finding different avenues of communication to help support each other and keep everybody going is something that probably I wasn't doing, pre-pandemic, but definitely doing a lot more now.
Thanks, Gloria. What about you, Steve?
The big thing is that I think it brought up awareness to just infection control. So, as most facilities people, we don't necessarily always think of it as infectious control, but it is what we do to keep buildings open. Influenza hits us hard every fall, and we just kind of roll through it and not really think about it. We do some, my big thing is on the cleaning and able to get people in the buildings. Like Brett said, he's added a lot of different, topics and ideas to keep handrails and escalator, things clean that we probably should have already been doing years ago. Influenza hits us hard. So positively, it brought that to light to a lot of executive team members, to a lot of the higher ups that, we really do need to do this and put better standards in place to keep our buildings clean. So it's been positive for me because it's allowed me to put a lot of different practices in place that, you had to spend a little money, and we've got to spend a little money every day and every month to do it. But it's working, right? It's working. Our work staff is in work every day. Most of our sites are open. We've had no issues. So it's been real positive in that route for me.
Great, thank you, Steve. What about you, David?
I think that this is kind of a watershed moment for our profession and what we do. From a professional development standpoint, facilities management has always been seen as a necessary overhead, and it's hard to get a seat at the table and to be considered strategically as far as growth of the business and protection of the business. So I have found this personally to be a great opportunity for me to demonstrate my self-worth to the organization and what a professional facilities person has to offer a group. So I urge you all to just seize the moment and take this opportunity for everybody.
Great, thank you, David. What about you, Doreen?
For me, I think just staying positive and trying to stay healthy. Again, going out and doing some hiking, finding some new places that I born and raised in Colorado that I had never even seen before. So finding those spots where you could kind of get your serene of just realizing that we're all blessed to be able to have an opportunity to have a job and staying focused on your job. And I agree with David that that we all need to stay focused on keeping the facility, showing them what we are all about, participating on things like if they ask you to, I was asked to install signs. I mean, I'll install the signs. I mean, I'm okay doing extra things around the facility. I have no problem of helping and showing that you're that facility team player. So I think just staying positive with yourself all the time and showing them that you are a facility person and you're always able to jump in whenever you're needed.
Great, thank you. What about you, Brett?
I think work-related, one was catching up on construction projects. That really helped getting us a leg up for next year on some big stuff that we knocked out. Even on a personal note, even with my team at work, we talked a lot about, you know, there's things you can control, there's things you can't. So just focus on things you can control, like boost your immune system, right? Eat healthy, get outside, exercise, get some vitamin D, do things you can because, you know, there's a good chance you're going to catch COVID-19. You have a good immune system, then you might be in pretty good shape.
Thanks, Brett. What about you, Mark?
So I would say it reinforced kind of a belief I have that no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that being able to demonstrate to the community and to our employees that we care about their health and their well-being and the safety of our facility and how it contributes to the community has made a huge difference. I think the reason we have people back inside our doors is because they feel we're doing everything we can to make available things that they care about that really create a sense of community, that offer for them an escape, if you will, or a place to go where they can kind of reconnect with what life should be about. And you know, in America, I think sometimes we work to live instead of, or we live to work instead of work to live. And this has given a lot of people an opportunity to slow down and recognize that. And, you know, we've, in just this short few months, we've been through not only COVID, but the protests down here have damaged our facilities. We had to deal with broken windows and spray paint and just recently with, you know, homeless related issues. And I think it's because we as an institution have tried to demonstrate that we care about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to offer, and people will meet you halfway. And I think that we as professionals in the industry can go a long way toward demonstrating that we care. We care about the people walking through our door. We care about the people that are occupying our facilities, and they'll meet you halfway. They'll wear their mask, they'll wash their hands, they'll be respectful of one another. But to the points already made, you know, you've got to be able to lead with that. I think you've got to show that you're sincere. You've got to care for your people and your team so that they're willing to be an extension of that to the community and to visitors, and all of that comes together. So I would offer that as kind of a capstone comment to what everybody said here, and also to the professional development. I've used this opportunity I'll test for my CFM here shortly, and I have to give a hat off to Vimal Mitchell and the team members that came together to provide that training in July for our membership, and that they, you know, they're passionate about it, and then that's contagious. And I think this has really been a sea change where people now recognize this is a profession. This is, you know, we're going to see, I think, as a result of this, more and more people seeking, you know, not just somebody who can fix the plumbing, but who understands what the plumbing means to the facility as far as keeping it healthy, or HVAC or electricity or whatever you have. So that's what I'd offer.
Thanks, Mark. It looks like we did have one question that came in that just wanted to spin off before we close up here. And that was from Sarah. She asked, what advice do you have getting people to follow the procedures you put in place? She said her staff keeps forgetting to use their tracing app and doing temperature checks on the corresponding form. So does anybody have any advice or any feedback they can provide regarding that?
This is Steve. Luckily, I have security on site, so you don't get in the building unless you show a green screen that you've cleared screening and your badge before you get in the building. So you're not even allowed in. But of course, I have security on site. That gives me that. If you don't have security on site, it may not be a bad idea, at least for temporarily, to bring one in for whatever your operational hours are. It is an expense, but it's also a perception that you're taking it seriously, and that you're going to keep the people inside the building safe. So even if it's a 30-day, 45-day, you know, you don't have to bring in 24/7 guards. But you know, most security companies offer reception services where you can bring somebody in, have them sit at the front door, and just, you know, we've got sanitation station, we've got mass distribution, and we've got screen checks all at the front doors. So, you know, we offer free masks when you walk in. We check your badge, we check that you've cleared your screening, and then you can get in the building.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else have a comment on that?
No, I would
Well,
say
I would say, you know, again, leading by example, and getting that communication from the senior level management goes a long, long way. So in my particular situation, that's the communication that's coming down from the top of the senior management team, is they support the mandates that are in place because we care about each other as team members and teammates. And we're all within our rights and worlds to be able to request that, I believe. So I think that carries a lot of weight and is important for people to hear that.
David, I think you were going to add to that.
no, I was just going to comment. I'm lucky. I also have a security officer at the front door. But what we've done is we funneled everybody through a single entry because there is limited occupancy in the building. And so even if you can't afford an individual, a security officer to sit at the front, you can sit up there yourself and just reinforce the policy and just lead by example, and make sure that you have senior management aboard, because it's a top-down thing. If they see the senior most individuals in the facility following rules, then everyone will fall in line.
Great, thank you all. Hope, Sarah, that answers your question or gives you some ideas as well to address that problem. So I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. And thank you so much for being on this panel, and for everybody who joined us. We hope you all enjoyed your GRUBHUB and got to order a nice lunch. We look forward to seeing you soon. Miss you all very much. Look forward to that day when we get to be all together. Keep your eyes and ears open for communication regarding what our next program will be.
Thank you for putting this together, Lori. This is great.
Thanks. And I hope that we will see you all at the golf tournament. And thank you. And please reach out to IFMA if you have any concerns. If there's any issues going on with your personal job situation, please reach out. We have special packages and things that we can do to help you through this. We have a lot of additional job opportunities that have been posted on our website. So I hope you all stay healthy and safe. And with that, I will end this and hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.